Alright, let's keep this brief. Either you're coming straight from the last video, and it's been 5 months? 5 months, and you've been dying to see this, or you're really, really confused. If you're the latter, go watch this, and then come back. If you need a refresher, don't worry, you don't. Today, we are continuing my theatrical Godzilla journey, where we will discuss and rank 7 different movies from the Heisei era. I've kept you waiting long enough. Let's get started. Our first foray back into the Goji world was spectacular. A decade after his last appearance and 30 whole years since his original landing in Tokyo, Godzilla gets reinvented and revitalized in the return of Godzilla. At first, I won't lie, I was a little scared going in. As we know, I got so used to Hero of Earth Goji, and I fell in love with that Showa era vibe. I was afraid not only how they would approach taking him back to his roots in a direct sequel to the 1954 film, but also in how that would affect my viewing and have my bias make this film unbearable. I am happy to say I was worried for nothing. This is one of my favorites so far. It reminded me why I love this big bastard and how terrifying he truly can be in a movie that I think really well builds on the original's themes and tone, despite some questions and plot holes I have, but they just don't really matter. This movie somehow feels like a sequel actually being made, as if all of these never existed. Not tarnishing what they've built, but a new fresh continuation. We are immediately off to a great start to get me ready for the first horror-feeling Goji since the original. A powerful first 10 minutes filled with some nasty parasites grotesquely murdering these seamen. We get so many great thrilling moments in this where, to me, it never felt as dreadful as the original, but it's going for the same feeling, and I would say it definitely succeeds. The main crux of this movie revolves around 2 things, really. This guy trying to uncover the Godzilla plot, which the government is hiding, and then trying to find a way to stop him, and the government tensions that quickly rise around Goji, with America and the Soviet Union right up the Japanese government's ass trying to protect themselves. We are so back. We have a brother-sister third-party love interest dynamic with a goofy old scientist. God. Oh. And our main character is a total sleazeball to start. This has all the parts for greatness. The heart of this movie is right on its sleeve with these characters, with that soap drama-esque quality I adore so much. I found all the human characters surprisingly charming and cared for them all, and I think that just shows the wonderful writing that this movie does have a lot of. Especially with some of these government officials, as I usually never care about them, but I loved the Prime Minister because of his fantastic speech here. It perfectly shows and presents what this movie is trying to say, and shows how well this movie builds on the themes of the original. Speaking on the nuclear arms pact and how Japan has to take responsibility and deny the use of a warhead on Godzilla. If they use one, it could, even if just slightly, change that strictly negative connotation of a nuclear warhead and would spell the end of the world. Just such a powerful moment that is the perfect timepiece evolution from the original, with the release of this film right in the prime of Cold War tensions, clearly felt with the heavy presence of these 2 superpowers. But we haven't even talked about Godzilla yet. This dude has aura in his return. He sneaks up on a whole country. He uses the cover of fog and sneaks up on a country. And he just looks so good. The design, the atomic breath, everything. The improvement of filmmaking techniques and technology in the 80s shows here so strongly, and helps improve Godzilla's screen presence to seem even more realistic and menacing. His rampage through Tokyo also helped by the simple fact that the city has grown a shit ton in the last 30 years with skyscrapers and the like, feels just as impactful as his first and really helps that scale show. The whole vibe of this movie is fantastic. It's beautifully shot, and one scene in particular blew me away. It's towards the end where they manage to take down the warhead before it lands on Goji, and the entire night sky is illuminated a deep red. Godzilla lays in the shot, and the sense of scale and almost horror, yet kind of relief at what we just avoided. Oh, this ambiance. Finally, I like how they finished off Goji here. Not too final, just sending him back to Earth, where he came from. It's kind of beautifully bittersweet, and the characters express that. Especially, well, I am not and will not be watching Godzilla 1985. It is a sequel to this garbage heap, and I don't want to even give it the time of day. However, I was told to just listen to Steve Martin's speech at the end. This son of a bitch, I hated it, I didn't want to do it, but this is one of the best speeches I think in the entire series. It is simple and effective. A man who was, not really, there from the beginning shares his sweet and simple sentiment that Godzilla is an oddly innocent creature, representing the consequences of man that we can't feel ourselves. The perfect explanation of what Godzilla is as a storytelling device, as a character. I know this one isn't for everyone. It kind of toes a strange line of having a lot of people sitting in rooms talking and not a lot of action happening, but when done well, I think that can make for a fantastic Godzilla movie. As when he's presented like this, we're supposed to feel the panic and helplessness that he brings, scrambling to find a way to stop his destruction. It's definitely not the best execution of it, but like I said, with wearing its heart so blatantly, I think this makes for a fantastic ride and a wonderful start to the Heisei era. Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Godzilla tier list. I am your host, James, and without further ado, let's just get started. You just heard me talk about the return of Godzilla, and I'm thinking it's going to sit at a nice, pretty A tier. I'm thinking right around this area, right around a pretty A tier. Yeah. This one is amazing. Godzilla vs. Biollante perfectly illustrates the way this Heisei era will feel from here on. Giant kaiju battles of gray morality where you are usually rooting for Godzilla because he is fighting a greater evil, and I love it. The setup for this one is one of my favorites so far too. After Godzilla's defeat, there is an arms race to use his leftover DNA for sci-fi movie hijinks. This leads to Americans being pricks and murdering people in the first 5 minutes, which is just beautiful. There's also a stakeout of a stakeout, like multiple times in this movie. The spy movie nonsense is just amazing and so perfectly brings me that crazy feeling of the Showa era while also maintaining a serious tone and pulling it off. The actual plot of this movie is of a scientist plagued by his daughter's unfortunate death, whom, through some fantastical reasoning, gets revived as a rose Godzilla. And as insane as that sounds, it leads to one of the most beautifully tragic characters in this entire franchise. Biollante is such a fantastic part of this movie. Immediately when she comes to life, she is straight out of Little Shop of Horrors and kills these guys brutally. Every single shot of Biollante blew my mind. The visual effects, the practical effects, the shot composition were always on point, beyond anything we've seen in this entire series thus far. And while the human heart of this plotline left some to be desired, as even though I know it was the point, kind of, the Doctor could have used a bit more emotion and care for his rose kaiju monster daughter, but I can look past it as the heavy lifting is all done for him. A wonderful decision of a rose representing the beauty of life and love, yet the thorns it has to destroy right underneath. That's storytelling. That's beautiful. Goji's presence in this one might be better than the last one even. And right off the bat, in one of my favorite scenes where all these kids are dreaming of Godzilla and they reveal it with the theme roaring out of nowhere, showing their pictures, it was so powerful. The constant impact of this guy on and off screen will never not amaze me. And then he actually shows up, and he walks out of an erupting volcano with bombs going off. Another thing I love about Goji is when he is petty against like one or two dudes and just murders them for being an asshole. Like, he just wipes out that colonel. I think that's funny. Now, the other human characters in this were entertaining. I don't think you ever learn what these guys' deals are, but they have so much sauce, I don't care. Like, come on. Look at these guys. However, all this being said, and as much as I love her, I wish Biollante, like, did more. She was amazing, and especially in the final fight, genuinely blew my mind with the practical effects, but she didn't do a lot. And I wish we got more. It was very much made up for by how impactful her scream time was, but still. Finally, all is well and done, and we get our message of scientists are evil or for trying to go against the laws of nature, blah, 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 whatever, based. Except it's not really done, because I was totally caught off guard as we get our classic send-off of Biollante, this time, the emotional core, and then the movie just keeps going when the scientist gets fucking shot and a battle ensues as the spy hijinks never ended. Also, this guy dies. And I wish I cared about him more, but apparently no one else did either. They just don't care. This bit really caught me off guard, but after a quick extra 5 minutes, we're at the actual end where this dude gets referred to as Batman. I love this movie. Goji send-off scene. Yeah. Next up, Biollante is good. It's good. I debated a long time between A and S because I do have some issues with it. But because of Return of Godzilla being an A, I think this is definitely like a step up. I'm going to put it in an S. It's a good, comfortable S. Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah is one I was obviously excited for. I have been waiting for Ghidorah to feel menacing, and I will continue to wait. He gets bitched again, but that's okay. He's still pretty cool in this one. You'll get there one day, buddy. Don't worry. This one follows some future humans who come back in time to stop Godzilla's destruction of Japan and the world, and in the process, King Ghidorah is born, and they end up having an epic final battle. Except that's the most simmered down summary I could feasibly give, because this movie is a fever dream of a giant kaiju Terminator movie mashup with a lot of confusing time travel. The kind of time travel I cannot explain or talk about because my brain will start to implode thinking about it. Except, I'm totally going to talk about it. Okay, so these guys lie and say they are here to save Japan from Godzilla. Obviously, they are lying, and they are actually trying to stop Japan from being super end-of-days capitalist monolith, so they convince them to go back in time and kill Godzilla when he's a baby, normal dinosaur. They do. They leave 3 little freaks and go home. Everyone, and I mean everyone, continues to know and remember who Godzilla is, despite him now having never existed. Also, everyone knows who King Ghidorah is and his name. No explanation. Also, the 3 little freaks combine and turn into King Ghidorah. Also, this lady is talking about our main character's Godzilla book from the future, even though no one would know who that is. And then Godzilla kind of comes back on his own. And do not get me started on how in this universe the 1954 movie happened, and I still don't know how Godzilla is even still alive from the oxygen destroyer, but it's fine. Now, there's a lot I missed because this plot moved so fast. It was enough for probably 3 movies and a spin-off, but you get the point. But I also don't have a big issue with that by itself. A lot of this stuff I actively like. I like that they tried to give Goji a proper origin, one that is to this day iconic and has been used again, and one that I really enjoyed and led to some great character moments. But my biggest thing is I wish they actively blew Godzilla's ass up themselves to revive him. It seems kind of contrived. otherwise, even though like I get the point, like I love the idea that Godzilla is a force of nature, something that will always come to be no matter what. But that's more of my own headcanon at this point to cope more than anything, because they do not expand or even touch on it. It's barely kind of slightly implied, but I digress. I was going back and forth with some crazy emotional whiplash the whole time. From the beginning, I simply do not trust these future white people. King Ghidorah is a dumbass. Anyone that ever tries to use him is stupid and always loses horrifically. And then we got some of what I think was anti-imperialist messaging, which is awesome, as well as this is the first time I've audibly busted out laughing at one of these movies. Like, why did they give us that shot of his face running? It was so funny. This happens like I love this movie. But by the end, I got it. I understood. This was an insane and glorious ride where fucking Mecha King Ghidorah comes out and still gets his ass rocked. Godzilla is just a menace in these, and I love him. Again, the fact that no matter the timeline, no matter the world, Godzilla solely wants to beat that golden bat's ass, it makes me so happy. Now, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, I don't want to do this, but it's gonna go down here. I don't think it is as bad as All Monsters Attack. I don't want that. I don't want you to think that. But I can't put it in C. And I think All Monsters Attack is only barely not in this one down here. Because it had a little bit of like, it had heart. Whatever. So the D tier is more of just like, I just didn't like it. There's levels down here. There's levels down here. So this is a tough decision. But it is going to go down. It's going to go down in D. Godzilla vs. Mothra takes a massive step back for a much more classic and simple Godzilla tale. Such a step back that the whole thing is a rehash of the original Mothra vs. Godzilla and also King Kong vs. Godzilla. I'm kidding, mostly, as this one also has Battery. I'm going to call him Battery. Mothra's very mean, very angry brother, whose goal is to actively kill humanity for destroying the environment. Based again. Off the bat, we've got one of the sauciest openings with Godzilla roaring to his theme as a meteor strikes down. Yeah, this is it. Biollante being an almost dreamlike horror movie, then a futuristic science adventure in the King Ghidorah one, this one brings us that awesome, almost mythological fantasy quality that I love. That Mothra just kind of always brings. The feel of this one is great, following an Indiana Jones-esque Tomb Raider being hired by his ex-wife, where they discover the coming of Mothra and Battery. I really like the human characters here. Mr. Tomb Raider is funny, and his arc is really endearing to watch as you root for him to be a good father, bro. Step up. Okay, it's been 3 movies. I can finally bring up Miki. We finally, almost 20 movies in, have a recurring character. She is our in-house ESP who can speak to Godzilla kinda. She has not actually been very important up until now, with kinda not a lot of personality, mostly just a plot device. But from here on, she gets a bit more hands-on and hopefully more personality. Now, this is easily my favorite iteration of Mothra so far. Her worm form feels huge and powerful, and she feels like something that does care but isn't going to just blindly save humanity for no reason, especially when they are actively trying to kill her. Also, the little fairies are back. They're called Cosmos now. And they don't have as much sauce as the original ladies, but it's fine. Battery has a pretty cool design, but not much to say about him until the end, because man, one thing these movies keep nailing is the solid final battles. Most of them are just beam struggles, but the emotions and back and forth with them are so great. Battery's sacrifice, man, oh, it got me. Out of nowhere, too. With the combined powers of siblinghood, they send off Goji away, because he's a bit of an asshole here. And with the Mothra send-off at the end, man, I love her. I love her. Go stop that meteor, babe. You got this. Goji wasn't very present here, as this was supposed to be just a Mothra movie. But every time Goji was on screen, I was pleased, so I can't really complain that much. Mothra was good. I did have some issues with it, and I debated putting it in C, but I think we're gonna set it at a solid B. A solid B. Right middle of the road. It was solid, solid. So, God, this is tough. I hate this. I hate ranking my babies. Oh, my glorious king. He has returned. This time, with the power of human engineering. Powered by the G-Force guinea pigs. In this movie, we see the long-anticipated return of Rodan, Goji's oldest asshole of a friend. And in this, we get a three-way showdown between the monsters and the powerful Mecha Godzilla. And it's a custody battle. That's right. New Age Manila. Oh my god. I would like to be upfront and apologize to all the Manila haters that I trashed on in the last video. This is what I wanted Manila to be. He is perfect in the heart and soul of this movie. Junior is already the light of my life. I still love Manila, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I get it. As long as he doesn't start talking, I will cherish him. I'm going to try really hard not to spend the entire rest of this part gushing about him, so we have to move on. When Rodan appeared, I was incredibly hyped up, especially because Goji wasted no time and immediately started beating that twink's ass. I love Rodan, and I love his design here. As with literally every design, actually. The Heisei era has been killing it. Every single one. I love Rodan, but he's buddy. Anyway, obviously they use Mechagodzilla to start beating Goji's ass. I think pretty unfairly. Like, you guys pissed him off. Yes, we may have destroyed at least one city in each of these movies, and he isn't going to stop, but still, don't hurt him. Our main guy in this one is kind of a huge loser, and I love him for it. He really only does like two helpful things in the whole movie, because Asusa Gojo, the actually important one, is doing everything. She nurses our sweet, perfect, and innocent child throughout the movie. We get so many great moments in the human plot around Junior, as he's kind of the heart, again, of all of this. He's showing the innocence of these creatures and that they aren't inherently evil, that there's a beauty to life no matter how large or naturally destructive. Speaking of destructive, yeah, final battle. It's full of kaiju and mecha hijinks, as not only does Mechagodzilla Megazord up, but Rodan gets a power-up from a group of clairvoyant children led by cult leader Miki. And he gets his own atomic breath, because of course he does. But he still gets his ass beat. Like really bad. Side note, there is a cut to a guy in the control room where he fist bumps the air right after they fuse. And he holds it there for like a good 4 seconds. And it is the funniest thing in this movie. Back to it, when the chips are down and you think all is lost, for the first time ever, Rodan is MVP, and he mega-evolves Goji. Goji goes fucking Super Saiyan. He goes fucking... The red atomic super blast thing. Oh my god. Yes. Using the powers of co-parenting, the kaiju come out victorious and live to see another day. And then in one of the best send-off scenes ever, Goji and Junior have a quiet moment together. And this adorable, perfect little guy follows his new father out to sea. The circle of life conquers all. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2. That's A tier. It's going to go right in A tier. I think so. It's almost like a totally different reason for the return of Godzilla. But I think they both belong there. I think they do. In Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, I was expecting much worse. It gets a pretty bad rap, but it was very fun. In this, we have a classic setup of some researchers on an island near Godzilla with various goals in mind. Some are trying to use technology to talk to him and control him even. Others are trying to kill him, and some are trying to get laid. Also, Junior is here, being the cutest thing ever. He got so big. Look at him. Look at him. Oh, also Miki is here, and she's being kind of proactive. Look at her go, okay? Yeah. This one, I think, has the strongest plot relevance of the humans trying the morality of Godzilla. A conversation that definitely needs to happen, as again, this guy is a total dick. While they're debating if he should be murdered in cold blood or not, a flying crystal with a Godzilla face slapped on it comes down and starts kicking Goji's single father ass. And Junior... Bro. Junior, run away! Godzilla. Protect your son, bro. Fuck. So, I spent the entire rest of this movie worried about Junior, so the plot kind of loses me. But don't worry, they'll tell me. There's a scene where government people are talking about this new space Godzilla. Yeah, very clever. And they fully explain exactly how he was formed almost immediately, and then say, at least that's our theory, with no evidence. And then it's never touched on again, so they must have been right. Also, this one has some of the strangest and weirdest looking shots, while also some of the most beautiful shots in the whole series for no reason, especially on the island. Randomly, it will transition to one of the most ethereal shots of media I have ever seen, with our love interest on the shore and the sunset illuminating an orange glow all around them. Stuff like this did make me really like this cast. This one does feel a lot more like a Miki story, even though this guy is our definite main character, with a bit of a cool factor, so I'm here for it. And I do like the old guy, someone who just straight up hates Goji, for pretty fair reasoning. Wipes out that colonel. I think that's funny. These guys are also cool because they're very, very hands-on in the final battle, piloting a two-step mech named Mongoose? Mongoose. I really don't understand why it isn't just Mecha Godzilla with a cool upgrade. It's fine. They have spiral power now, which is really hot, so it's fine. They have a very kinetic final battle with Space Goji, who, all in all, has some great screen presence with his weird space crystal powers and feels very brutal and tough. But Goji gonna get his ass right, which he does. He also acknowledges Miki, which I think is really cool. And they definitely have one of the most personal connections that Goji has had with someone, I think, in any of these. And we get our first strictly positive Goji send-off of this era. Not bittersweet, we're just like happy he's alive. With the old guy acknowledging Goji in the most shonen manga-ass scene I've ever laid my eyes on. Just two guys who fought together to put aside their differences. I wrote this whole review and fully forgot to mention or even write any notes on the fact that there is an entire subplot where Miki is kidnapped by the Yakuza and learns to move shit with her mind, which has very, very, very little importance before and after this. This movie is fucking insane. This one, I think, similar to Ghidorah, just had some weird issues with it. I think Space Godzilla was good. I liked it. I don't think it was nearly as bad as I've heard, but I don't think it deserves to be here in B. It definitely doesn't deserve to be in D. So I think just process of elimination. It's got to be in C. I think it's going to be a high C. Like, it's definitely, it's definitely a high C, but high C. This one is tough. It's tough to find the words on how I feel about Godzilla vs. Destoroyah. The Heisei era has had its ups and downs. Very, very weird plots treated with full sincerity, some lackluster characters, or even just some kind of boring battles. But at the core of them all, and what I think saves them to make it reach far beyond what it would have been, is the heart. A heart I have mentioned time and time again already, as it is so blatant and consistent in these movies. And that's the love for Godzilla on display here. And in the first series of films that actively try to be connected and a cohesive story, that emotion and love makes it all the better, makes it all the more powerful. And this movie is a perfect, and I mean that, perfect end. I spent time writing about plot hole issues that mostly stemmed from the King Ghidorah movie. I ranted about a bunch of smaller, inconsequential things, but by the time I finished the movie, none of it meant anything. I don't care to comment on that because this movie means that much. It moved me that much. I do think it has faults. There's plenty of conversations I want to have too, like, does the nature of this villain undermine or does it amplify Serizawa's original message? But all I can find in myself is to speak on how much this moved mountains. In this film, there's actual horror scenes straight out of Aliens. There's countless callbacks to the 54 film and even actual cameos from then. A large part of this movie is that conversation, the final wrapping of what that movie meant. If The Return of Godzilla was a perfect continuation and evolution of 1954, then this is the perfect conclusion to both. As a Godzilla kaiju fest, it's one of the best. This is easily my favorite Godzilla design so far, leading to some of the best looking and most powerful feeling fights yet, with an all grown up Junior joining in to take down the single most menacing villain yet. The physical incarnate of Godzilla's past life, the only thing to have ever killed him. And that weight is felt when he's small down on the ground and hunting humans, or even when he's constantly evolving bigger to take down our father-son duo. Either way, Destoroyah is terrifying. So terrifying, he rips apart Junior, stabs him in the chest, leaves him to bleed out right before Goji could get there. The roaring of the Versus Destroyer theme starts as Goji mourns his son. It's so fucking powerful. In the most emotional and dramatic final battle in any of these movies, made so much more powerful thanks to Miki. I clowned on her a lot, and I meant it all. But here, only here, in this final act of the final movie, do I see her merit. In a series that is meant to be a very interconnected, cohesive story, she is the only recurring human character. That is for this moment. She's been in this since she was a literal child. She is the only person to have felt what Goji felt, been in his mind, and as the embodiment of what could have been peace between these monsters and humans, Junior, who had just given his life protecting humanity, slowly loses consciousness, and Miki begins to cry. And so did I. I never thought I would cry at a Godzilla movie, but Godzilla's mournful roar, the light fading from Junior's eyes, I couldn't help it. The entire series, Godzilla has been alone, and when he finally found that companionship, it was taken from him. It was used against him by us, and now he has nothing but a failing, melting body and rage. This movie was marketed as the one where Godzilla dies. It's not a secret. I knew it before starting this series, and I had never even heard of the other Heisei movies. But that's what makes it worse. From the opening of the movie, they tell you he is going to die, but it doesn't make it any less brutal and sad. He kills Destoroyah brutally and wonderfully in a fantastic final battle. And then he overheats. He starts to physically melt, and it is terrifying to watch. It is horrific. The score roars in the background as everyone watches. Yes, Godzilla destroyed and killed thousands, but even they all wonder if this is the end of something good, a protector, a guardian, something that represents what we can't. If this was the end of all things Godzilla, I wouldn't be upset. And it originally was supposed to be. It's beautiful, and I treasure this movie. But it wasn't the end. And from here on, we follow a reinvention of the character, or an American remake, but it's never him. Even when they say it's him, it's not. This very much feels like the end to the original Godzilla. Like this guy right here. This is easily an S. Maybe even Prime Goji. This is so much better than its parts, and it's almost mind-boggling. Especially since from the ashes and fallout of his father, Junior rises, evolved and larger than before, roaring through the smoke before an abrupt cut to black. We don't see Junior again after this, and that's okay. This world has its protector again, but at a hefty cost. I've just explained it to you. I don't think I really need to justify putting it right up here. Two totally different reasons for being the best of the best, but it does, I think, very confidently deserve its place up there. After that emotional train wreck, I have to do something that I'm not very happy about. I have clearly been working on this video a long time, and I had to make the tough decision to cut it in half. Originally, this video was going to be everything else. I was going to cover all the way up until Godzilla x Kong, but I decided I would rather get this out, make it good, and work on the other one, make it good, right? So I do want you to know you're not going to have to wait that long for the second part. It is mostly already done. I just wanted to give myself more time to work on it and give the care that I think this series needs, because I have learned to just adore Godzilla and everything that he is. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.